Good afternoon, everybody. In the absence of an elected chair, I will now call this meeting to order. I will start by reading the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the I've never fumbled on this before. Anishinaabeg, the people of the Three Fires known as the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation who have inhabited this land from time immemorial, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. So I will start with the agenda. I would ask that a mover that the agenda be approved as presented. Jay, okay. All in favor? Okay, I will now open up the floor for committee chair nominations. Does any member wish to make a nomination and/or volunteer themselves to be committee chair? So there is a nomination for Member LaBerre. Are there any other nominations? Okay, to close off nominations, the recommendation is that Member Mike LaBerre be elected committee chair. Could I have a mover? Moved by Member McComb. All in favor? Okay, perfect. Okay, now I'll open up the floor for vice chair nominations. Does any member wish to make a nomination and/or volunteer themselves to be vice chair? There, just remember your microphones, guys. So just hit the talk
I
button.
would nominate EJ as vice chair.
Okay, so there's a nomination for Member McComb on the floor. So all in favor, show of hands. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, well, now that we have a chair, I will gladly hand this meeting over because I am a clerk and not a chair, and I recognize I'm not doing the greatest job at this. So
Again. Declaration of itinerary prices.
None for me.
okay, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all the members for volunteering to serve on the committee. I wanted to provide some brief orientation for the members before we get started with today's proceedings because this is a new council term. So the committee is responsible for hearing appeals of orders made pursuant to the Building Code Act and the Township's Property Standards Bylaw 2022-26. So members should review this bylaw and get acquainted with it. It is appended to today's agenda package. For calling of meetings, the committee doesn't have a regular meeting schedule. The committee is called when appeals are received. Appeals of property standards orders must be received within 14 days of the order being served. For the requirements of the Building Code Act, the committee has a duty to hear appeals that are received. The committee has all of the powers and functions of the property standards officer who made the order, and the committee may confirm, modify, rescind an order to demolish or repair. They also have the authority to extend the time for complying with the order. So lastly, committee remuneration. Members are compensated for their attendance at meetings and site visits in accordance with the approved council remuneration policy. Members will be required to fill out a timesheet after meetings so that we are prompted to pay your expenses. A timesheet will be circulated following today's meeting for your records, and then you would just fill that in after every meeting. And then as well, a copy of the council remuneration policy was appended to today's agenda package for your information.
Can you hear me? Okay. We've got the orientation, hearing of appeal of the order. We have then hearing for who wishes to start first. This. Oh, the whole thing. All right. Hearing of the appeal of the Property Standards Committee regarding order dated May 9th, 2023 to Randy Smith, Tracy Parkin, Ruth Parkin, Kenneth Smith, and James Couture regarding property located at 179051 Gray Road 17. I would remind committee members, staff, and the applicants that the Building Code Act of Ontario gives the Property Standards Committee all the powers and functions of the officer who made the order. And the committee may confirm, modify, or rescind the order or extend the time for complying with the order. If in the committee's opinion, the order is fair and the general intent and purpose of the Building Code Act are maintained. If there are any others present, be advised that if anyone other than the owners or their agent wishes to receive notice of the decision of the Property Standards Committee, or in the event of the committee defers to its decision respecting the appeal, such person or persons must leave their names and addresses in writing with the township clerk prior to leaving the hearing. The municipality or any order, occupant, or person affected by the committee's decision may appeal to a judge of the Superior Court of Justice of Ontario by notifying the township clerk in writing and by applying to the Superior Court of Justice within 14 days after a copy of the decision is sent. The hearing will begin with evidence being presented by the officer. Then the appellants or their agent will have the opportunity to speak. The committee will have the opportunity to ask questions of both the officer and the appellants. After all evidence and arguments have been received, the committee may move to deliberate its decision in private. Following deliberations, a verbal decision will be given and a written decision will be sent to the appellant and the other interested parties. Okay, first property standards officers to be present.
Yes, my name is Brian Paulus. I'm the bylaw enforcement officer for Township of Georgian Bluffs. I've been here since May of 2022, and my function is to enforce the bylaws within the Township of Georgian Bluffs. On the given day of March 22nd, I attended the property in the said property standards order in regards to a complaint filed by the NEC in regards, they received a complaint in regards to multiple trailers on the property. They were concerned in regards to it being NEC property and the trailers being affixed on this property and being cohabitated on this property. I attended that property on the 22nd, along with Deputy Chief Andy Redmond of the Inner Township Fire Department. I took him along as a witness, but also if he could do an inspection on these trailers to make sure that they have the proper working smoke detectors and CO detectors inside the trailers. At this time of the year, there was obviously nobody staying in the trailers because of the winter time. We did a door knock at the residence and spoke to a gentleman by the name of Ken Smith, who lives in the house all year round. He stated to us that the three trailers were occupied by his three sisters that stay on this property. They come on the weekends during the summer months and stay for periods of time during the summer. We also asked the question in regards to the sewage on the trailers on this property. What happens to the sewage that is in the containers? Basically, he tells me that they empty the containers into a bucket and take it into the household septic system and dump it into the septic system on the property there to empty it out. He also stated that the septic system hadn't been pumped in 2 years, with the last time it was pumped by a private corporation to come in and empty the tanks. So the fire chief wasn't able to do his inspection, so he was going to come back at a later date to do the inspections on these trailers to make sure they make the fire code. After my visit, I came back and spoke to my direct supervisor, Tim Lewis, who's the chief building official for the Township of Georgian Bluffs, and advised him of my findings. So we, between the both of us, came up with the property standards order that was issued for these parties. The property standards written on the delivered to the residents on May the 9th, 2023. It was also posted in laminated form on a birch tree on the property as well too. It was hand delivered to the occupants of the house, and they were explaining the situation of the appeal process, which brings us here today. The property standards in question here was the yards, section 2.02, the property standards pursuant to bylaw 22-2013 in regards to the parking and storage of personal trailers, motorhomes, snowmobiles, etc. on this property. Also, that is subsection 3, and as well subsection 4, no person shall in a zone use any trailer, travel trailer, motorhome, or truck camper for the purpose of primary residential, permanent living, sleeping, or eating accommodation except for those placed in the approved mobile home park. This is not an approved mobile home park under the zoning bylaw. Action required given to the residents was the trailers must be removed from property. Having one is allowed for storage on the property. The trailers cannot be parked in the property use for a habitation. That is my evidence for today. Subject to any questions.
So there are three trailers there.
Yes,
Just set the stage for us. Yeah, so there's three trailers there. All three trailers are being used occasionally in the summer, or one of them is a primary residence and two of them are not. Don't understand.
sure. All This is one here trailer. Other trailer. Trailer.
Okay.
And the last trailer. These pictures were taken on the day in question when I was there, March 22nd. So they're used by the sisters on weekends, long weekends to stay there.
Okay. And then you said that there's a house and that's where the sewage is being dumped?
That's correct.
Out of curiosity, is the septic for the house? Is it adequate for a house, like for a regular dwelling? There is, what size is it?
I couldn't answer that question. The chief building official will be able to answer the question in regards to the septic system that was built for that house back in the day when that septic system was installed for the size of that house.
How many people live in the house?
According to the gentleman I spoke to, is just one gentleman that he just said he lived here by himself. He told me on that day.
Okay. And how, out of curiosity, how large is the house? Is it 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom?
I was not in the house, so I can't,
Okay.
I wouldn't guess like how many, what
Okay,
the size of the house is in regards to bedrooms or size or dimensions or anything.
okay, fair enough. Any sense as to the duration that people are staying there during the summer? Like, I guess it's the summer months, so.
Yeah, this was brought to us like, so it wasn't on our radar last summer, so there was no like.
Yeah, I know you guys don't go looking for problems, yeah.
No, that's correct. We're
Sure.
not a proactive approach. We're a reactive approach. And I was well aware of this property, but I was never formally given a complaint about this property last summer when I was working and traveling by the location. The
Yes, sir.
location is,
The complainant was in NEC, I don't know what that is.
sorry, the Niagara Escarpment Commission.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes, it was it was an investigator from the Niagara Escarpment Commission that brought it towards the township.
What would the ramifications be if the sewage system was overloaded in that area? Would there be damage to area?
The chief building official can answer that question when he gives his
Okay.
testimony under because there's also a unsafe building order against the building as well that Tim Lewis addition to that property as well.
Okay, I'll hold my question to it then, thanks. Well, what one other was the 2.02 section of the property yards?
Yes, sir.
Where does this section 3 and 4 come from?
It's the subsections of the yards.
It's not in the original, it's not in the bylaws that I was given.
I don't have the bylaw in front of me. Sorry, sir.
I have section 2.02 yards
Right.
and it has 1, 2, and then 2A to F. And then it goes to 2.03. This section 3 on the order, 3 and 4 on the order aren't in the bylaws. So is it in a sub? 3? When you look at the bylaw under yards, you've got 1, 2. And it goes to 2.03. 2.03. So I'm just wondering where the 3 and 4 come from. Which seem to be the crux to the matter. Yeah, that's what I think it's coming from somewhere else. I just need to know where it's coming from, I guess. It's not part of the property bylaw. It must be part of some other section of some other. Thinking that. Is it what's bylaw 22-2013? Being property standards, but that's the one I'm quoting here is this part 2, 202 yards. So where does 3 and 4 come from? That are in the order. Talks about the parking and storage of personal trailers and all that. Do I have an outdated bylaw that maybe?
Normally I have the binder in front of me for my bylaws and that. So looking on the computer, I can't find that location, but that would have been under the zoning bylaw in regards to relation to the property standards.
I get, one other question I had, was there a notice of violation issued before the order?
A verbal
A verbal?
is done, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is that common?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Common, because what we want to do is we want to work with the people. First of
Sure.
all, like, so after the investigation is commenced, we talk to the residents, we try and work out, like, give you a couple weeks, give you a month, depends on the circumstances, the situation. And if we don't find anything that's happening during that time frame, then we go to the next step, which is the property standards order or issuing an order.
Okay, thanks.
Afternoon, gentlemen. For the record, my name is Tim Lewis. I'm the chief building official for the Township of Georgian Bluffs. Been employed in this type of role for about the last 15 years. Basically, what happens is when Brian's out and he suspects there's been a contravention of the property standards bylaw, he'll notify me, come back, explain to me what's happened. I go out to the property with him, take a look, see what's been going on. But you've already heard from him what's going on, so I won't repeat all that. In regards to some clarification, Agri Escarpment Commission takes care of quite a body of land. They do turn to us quite often to assist them when there's violations or things aren't in compliance with two things. In this case, there's two things that there's not compliance with. One is the zoning and one is the property standards bylaw. Okay. So the zoning tells you what you can use the land for. Property standards says, okay, if you use the land in some way that's inappropriate, then this is what's going to happen. Okay. Today you're not hearing the building code violation, which has to do with the septic system. But the reason the section on the building code may be important to you is that when you're dealing with septic systems under the building code, it is the only time that you will find in the building code that the code takes the discretion away from a building code official like myself and says, if there's a modification, an improper use, anything like that, anything done to alter a septic system, okay, if it's not being used in accordance with the way it was designed for, then that system is unsafe. Okay. So it kind of ties your hands as a building official. You have to act on that. Okay. In this case, yeah, once, a week for 3 or 4 days, or 2 days, whatever it is, they're taking sewage from 3 other buildings and dumping it into the system at the house. Okay. Houses that are older, we have no way of knowing what size of tank they have, what size of bed they have. Okay. When the onus is on the person who wants to increase that load to show us that that septic system can handle that load. Okay, that hasn't been done in this case. Okay. So if you're going to put an addition on your house, 2 things trigger a bigger septic system, right? Square footage and fixture units. Okay. We have 3 trailers, so we have increased square footage. We have all kinds of increased fixture units, right? Okay. So that's where our concern comes from. Okay. So we're concerned with NEC property is sensitive land. We want to make sure that the uses that are going on in that land are appropriate for that particular environment. And then it's safe for everybody, not only the landowners, but the people around it. Okay. So that's the reason we're here today. Okay. Questions, gentlemen?
No, we have no further
Thank you.
questions. Presentation of evidence by the applicant.
Good day, gentlemen. My name's James Couture. I'm the owner of the property. A little visibly shaken here today. This is quite the different thing than what happened at the residence. Like everybody's polite and pleasant and everything here, but my stepfather, who resides there, felt intimidated and threatened, and they said, "Oh, we're condemning the house. You're going to be kicked out of here, and you can't do any of this stuff." Now, these trailers have been there for excess of 15 years. I'm a Métis gentleman. Family has meetings there. We do cultural stuff. We speak. It's not a residence for anybody. Some of my family lives in London, drives up, spends a weekend, goes home. Wasn't aware of the whole septic issue until we talked about it. So I've nullified that, and that's not going to happen again. I could put a porta potty if that's necessary or whatever, but all boils down to, this is a cultural thing that I do with my family. It's not, funded by anything, or nobody's trying to make a profit. Just a place to stay when they come to visit. And, I don't understand the whole issue why I'm being attacked. I talked with the NSC and they said, "Oh, we didn't even know about that." I talked to Dina Dykeman, who is the provincial offenses compliance program supervisor. And she said, "Well, we did a, what do they call it? Sky view of your property, and we don't see anything there. Where is it?" I said, "Well, the trailer's on the property, but it's under the canopy, of course." And she said, "Are you running the trailer camp?" And I said, "No, it's a family come up on weekends, spend a day or two, go home. It's not a residence for anybody." They said, "Okay, we don't have a problem with that. Just talk to the city officials or see what they got to say about it." So far, that's where we are. I don't understand the whole problem, but we worked something out today. That's all I have to say for that right now. If you have any questions or.
You mentioned when they came up, you would do something different with the sewage. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, right now we could just shut off the toilets in the trailers themselves and have them use the facilities in the house. It's a 2-bedroom house. I don't know, 1,000 square feet roughly. Just my stepfather lives there. It's not like, like I said, every 2 years or so I empty the tank because it's not really being used for anything other than, his facilities, right? And the tank is, I don't know, I don't know the dimensions of it, but it was put in like 20 years ago. It's all full weeping tile and everything. It's all up to standard at that time, which is still now. There's not influx of people living there. I mean, on the weekend, be like if someone came to your house for the weekend, you tell them, "Oh, sorry, you can't use the facilities here because our septic tank's in the backup." I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I understand there's standards, and I understand there's things that need to be done, which is fine. But if I needed to put like I said, a porta potty for the weekend while they're there, oops, sorry, not a problem. I can do that. It's unaware of the time of what was going on. Like I said, it's been like 15 years we've done these things and never had an issue. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, "Oh, by the way, you can't do that here." And I don't appreciate the threats that came with it. Actually, to tell you the truth. Thankfully, I wasn't there myself. In a different situation.
I might have missed it. When was the sewage tank put in?
About 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not, the house is a lot older than that, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes, yes. The house was originally just a cabin, and there was actually just a outhouse just off to the corner.
So there was a permit issued when the
When
tank was
yes, when the original
done about 20 years
about
ago.
20 years ago.
I ask if that's correct with you have
Sure, no problem.
confirmation of that?
We wouldn't be able to confirm that, because 20 years ago, everything was done through the health unit. Okay, there was supposed to be a transfer of information from the health unit to municipalities. You check with a lot of municipalities in Grey and Bruce, and that transfer didn't go so well. At this point, I'd just like to say if we could take a 5-minute break, I wouldn't mind talking to this gentleman and seeing if we could resolve the issue. Okay, my wheels are turning here when I'm sitting listening to him talk. You guys aren't opposed to that?
I'm not opposed.
Okay,
No, I'm not opposed. I was gonna suggest something similar. I
thank you.
think it's easier, so.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're gonna resume, yeah, Tim?
All right, I have chatted with say the last picture, Mr. Couture. And I think we have things resolved. I'd like to share that conversation with you. Okay. And I'll just run through things. The septic problem can be resolved if people use the septics in the house. Okay. And I've gotten a read on the number of people that come there. Okay. On the weekends. Loading, like shock loading a septic system, I guess is the best way to describe it, on a weekend. Everybody in George and Bluffs at one time or another does that. Okay. Thanksgiving weekend, Christmas, whatever. Okay. Systems are designed to compensate for that a bit. Okay. They will use the house. They will get rid of 2 of the trailers, which will leave 1 trailer on the property, which brings it in compliance with the zoning. Okay. He can still have enough room for most people and do his meetings most of the time. If he wants to increase the capacity for sleeping on the property, the gentleman has agreed to come and see me about what he has to do to put a bunkie on the property, and with the changes that we've all heard from the Ford government, he'd have the ability to do that. So, having said that, I think we've resolved all the issues here today.
Tim, what are the bylaws surrounding regular use of trailers? We have friends that come over on weekends, bring their trailers. I've seen lots of places that have 3 and 4 trailers.
Yeah.
That would be a normal usage.
We kind of just take a look at that. If there's no problems, right? You know, somebody pulls in their trailer for a weekend, most trailers have a holding tank. Okay. And people take care of that in an appropriate manner. There's places, trailer sales places have dumping stations. Some municipalities have dumping stations, right? Those things get taken care of. Okay. Last summer we had one that we were watching. It was up by Oxon. It was a wedding. We knew about it. There was about, I don't know, 10, 15 trailers in there on the property for the weekend. We just made sure that they arrived for the wedding and they left, you know, after the weekend. Okay. It's, you know, bylaw enforcement is not an easy job. I don't envy Brian all the time. But he does, and I do try to look at things from the other person's side. Okay. And we try to work with people. And that's what we're doing with this gentleman today, is saying, hey, okay, we've heard your side of things. We understand a little better what you're doing now. Let's, you know, try and work together and resolve it. So.
Tim, for my edification, how does one store a trailer for the winter? Can you, again, I've seen trailers being stored for the winter for family members who have residences. Rather than keeping it on their driveway, they bring it over to dad who's got a farm, and they park 2 or 3 of them in the field and they winterize and leave.
Yep.
Would that be a violation as well, or?
No, we don't get too excited about that.
Okay.
You know, if it becomes a problem, like I have had it, Indian Acres Road, I had a guy who was hauling in boat trailers and hauling in, you know, live-in trailers and stuff. He had about 30 of them on his property. Well, that's no longer just being a nice guy and helping your friends have some storage. That's running a business. Okay. So now you're contravening the zoning bylaws. So got to get them out of there, right? Okay.
So before we go and confer and put some actual words around this, you're comfortable with the idea that when people visit, they use the loo in the house, and that the permanent trailer storage is brought down to one's trailer.
Correct.
And if people are transient, they come in on the weekend and they bring a trailer with them, that would be normal, and they would leave after the weekend with their trailer.
Yeah, I think I've offered them a better option than bringing the trailer in, you know, by saying, hey, you know, there's certain things you can do that, I mean, if you build a big bunkie, you're into the building code, which is fine. If that's the route he wants to go. If it's a smaller bunkie, you know, they change the code, right? It's under 160,
is it, or
it's 160 square feet, right? That's a pretty big sleeping quarter, right? So, people have a fair bit of room there that they can play with now, right? You still gotta watch things like lot coverage and stuff like that, but, it works.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Excellent.
One question, we heard from the applicant that he's in concurrence with you, and
Yes, sir.
you guys can shake hands on it.
Yeah, sure. We had a little chat in the hall and figured it out. It's seems to be a good idea. The bunkie might be a better idea than a trailer. Gives everybody a little more space. And yeah, I think it'd be fine. Just carry on with the way we're doing things. And everybody's happy. Should be all right.
You're happy, we're happy.
Good thing.
I'd like to commend Tim and Mr. Couture on your negotiations.
Well done.
Just wondering, as far as formalities go, how do we drop this order, or do we?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I believe it would be prudent for us to go into closed session to deliberate and discuss before rendering a decision.
Committee may move into closed session to deliberate. Oh, ready? Okay. We're ready.
For you, Mr. Chair, apologies. You just need a mover and then to take the vote to move
Oh,
into closed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Madam Clerk.
Good to go. Okay. We're coming out of, or into, or back into, open session. The acting clerk will read the committee's decision, ask for a mover, and call for a vote.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will turn it over to our acting CAO to provide some comment following the committee's deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think to summarise for members of the public, the nature of the conversation that took place, and some of the salient points that bubbled out from that. I think the first thing that we noted, based on the conversation, was that there is actually an administrative error in the property standards violation notice, which was placed before the committee today and issued to the property owners, in respect to the fact that the order refers to property, to the bylaw 2022-2013, which is a property standards bylaw. The verbiage which is contained within there is actually drawn from our zoning bylaw and is not found in the property standards bylaw. And our zoning bylaw doesn't actually apply to this property. That part of our zoning bylaw doesn't apply on the basis that this property falls under the higher planning authority of the Niagara Escarpment Commission. And so the property standards part of the notice that was given was subject to an administrative error, and that was a point of some conversation while we were deliberating. The second element, I think, which is important and was referred to by Mr. Lewis, is the second part of the order, which deals with the septic systems on this property. That is actually embedded within the building code, Ontario Building Code, and so that is actually beyond the purview of the Property Standards Committee at this point in time. Mr. Lewis and the appellant, the property owner, have met and discussed alternative arrangements to hopefully bring this property into a position which allows for the use of the property by the property owner and their family members in a way which can be supported both by building code and if any requirements are needed under either planning or building to address that, then the property owner will work with the appropriate planning authorities, in this instance the Niagara Escarpment Commission and or the township, if any approvals are required, and that will be subject to discussions on an ongoing basis. But I believe that sort of provides some colour behind the conversation that was held in closed session. And thank you for giving me some time to comment on that before you take the vote.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So following closed session deliberations, the motion reads as follows: that the Property Standards Committee hereby rescinds the order placed to the owners of 179051 Gray Road 17, Georgian Bluffs.
Okay, can we have a mover on that? Okay, all in favor. Okay, we have the order has been rescinded and as laid out, and we'll end the meeting. There we go. You moved? Okay, and I agree. You agree? We're in agreement.